Hey guys, what's up? I'm Erin and welcome back to the channel. Big changes for retirees. Starting in 2033, the age at which you must start taking funds out of your tax-deferred retirement accounts, your required minimum distributions or RMDs, is moving up again, this time to 75. Now here's why this matters. RMDs don't just set tax rule, they also dictate behavior. About 80% of people don't touch their retirement accounts before RMD age. And once those RMDs kick in, about 84% of retirees only take the minimum, nothing more. In other words, for most Americans, RMDs are the spending rule. So if RMD age moves to 75, that's going to change the rhythm of retirement. And if you're 5, 10, or even 15 years out from retirement, this is exactly the kind of change you want to be thinking about because it's going to shape your spending, your taxes, and the money you leave behind. Here's the headline. The Secure Act 2.0 already raised the RMD age from 72 to 73 in 2023. In 2033, it goes up again to 75. If you were born in 1951 through 1959, your RMD starts at age 73. If you were born in 1960 or later, you'll start at age 75. One important note, there was some confusion for those born in 1959 as to whether their RMD age would be 73 or 75, but the IRS did clarify it. For those born in 1959, their RMD age is 73. What doesn't change? The Uniform Lifetime Table Divisors, the table the IRS uses to calculate your RMDs. At age 73, the divisor is 26.5. At 74, it's 25.5. At 75, it's 24.6. Those numbers aren't being rebuilt. The only thing that's moving is the start date. Instead of taking your first RMD at 73, you'll now be able to wait until 75. That means you get to skip 2 extra years of mandatory withdrawals and your account balance can simply continue to grow tax-deferred and untouched if you wish. And just a quick reminder, this is the mandatory minimum age at which you must start taking funds out of your account. You can always make withdrawals earlier if you want to or need to. Most of these accounts are fully accessible without penalty by age 59 and a half. And one more key point to keep in mind, RMDs only apply to traditional accounts like the traditional IRA or the traditional 401k. Roth IRAs, Roth 401ks, they don't have RMDs. They don't have these mandatory withdrawals. Let me show you how this plays out with some simple numbers. Say you have $1 million IRA at age 73. Under today's rules, you'd divide that by the IRS divisor for age 73, which is 26.5, and that gives you an RMD of about $37,700. But if you wait until age 75, you've had 2 more years of compounding. Let's say your portfolio grows at 6% a year. That balance is now around $1.125 million. At age 75, the divisor is 24.6. If you do the math, your RMD jumps to about $45,700. So what's happening here? By skipping 2 years, you have fewer total withdrawals, but each one is larger. And just so we're clear, there is no retroactive adjustment. If you've already started taking your RMDs when this rule goes into effect, you just simply continue on the path you're on. Let's start with some of the upside of RMDs moving to age 75. The first one's obvious, more tax-deferred compounding. By delaying RMDs 2 extra years, this allows your account balance to keep growing. And on accounts with large balances, this could easily be a few extra tens of thousands of dollars working hard for you. And this can extend how long your money lasts. Second, you get a bigger tax planning window. Those years between when you retire and when your RMDs begin can be a golden opportunity for Roth conversions, managing your tax brackets, or even harvesting capital gains. And by pushing that RMD age to 75, you have more time to spread out this planning and hopefully lower your lifetime taxes. Think about it this way. If you retire at, say, 65, you might have a 10-year gap before RMDs begin. And if you retire earlier and delay claiming Social Security, that gap can be even wider. That's a prime time for Roth conversions. Even if you've already started claiming Social Security, your income may be modest enough that you still have room within the tax bracket of your choosing to move money from this traditional account into a Roth. And that way you get to move this money from a tax-deferred bucket to pay taxes during the conversion, but you get to put it into a place where it can continue to grow completely tax-free for both you and your heirs, and there is no RMDs during your lifetime. Third, there's a charitable angle. Qualified Charitable Distributions, QCDs, where you give money directly to a charity from your IRA. These still start at age 70 and a half. This means you could actually start to shrink your IRA balance before those RMDs kick in by sending money on over to a charity, as long as you do this directly from your IRA. And then once RMDs do kick in, you can continue with these QCDs, these Qualified Charitable Distributions, directly from your IRA. It checks the box on your RMD and it lowers your taxable income because it's not taxable to you. And for those who are charitably inclined, this is a win-win. Fourth, this potentially changes sequence of returns risk. Imagine turning 73 in the middle of a bear market. That would mean you would be forced to sell assets at depressed values, locking in your losses. However, if this age moves to 75 for RMDs, this would give your account a few extra years to continue growing and maybe recover. Now, of course, this does go into the area of market timing, and we never really know when those bear markets are going to hit or those bull markets, but it just depends. If you happen to be 73 during a bear market, or if you happen to be 75 during a bull market, this would affect the amount you would have to pull out. Sequence of return risk is greatest in the early years of your retirement. That is when your portfolio is most vulnerable. And the longer you can leave your money invested, the higher your balance is likely to be, because over time, the stock market tends to go up. And finally, it fits neatly with the still working exception. If you're still employed past RMD age and not a more than 5% owner in the company, you can delay taking your RMDs with most plans. And if RMD age increases to 75, well, this is just going to give you more breathing room and you can weigh your options. So on the surface here, there really are some advantages. You get more time for growth, you get more flexibility with your planning, less forced withdrawals. Of course, it's not all upside. There are some real trade-offs here too, moving that RMD age to 75. First, you really could be setting yourself up for bigger tax bombs later. By waiting until 75 to take your first RMD, it's very likely that your account balance is going to be larger because it's had more time to compound. But the divisor on the IRS table, that's smaller. So that means your withdrawal is going to be larger. This could push you into a higher tax bracket. It could make you subject to IRMA surcharges, Medicare premiums, so those would be higher. It could also make it so that a greater portion of your Social Security is subject to taxation. So ultimately, it's not that you're avoiding taxes, it's just that you're pushing them down the road a little bit and then they might hit harder. Second, there's the Two-RMD Trap. In the very first year you're required to take an RMD, the IRS gives you a little grace. You don't have to take it until April 1st of the following year. But here's the catch. Every other RMD after that must be taken by December 31st. So if you delay taking your first RMD, you'll end up taking 2 RMDs in a calendar year, and that very well could push your taxable income into higher brackets, especially as your account balance is now likely higher if that first RMD age is 75. And this can have that ripple effect not only on your income taxes, but the portion of Social Security subject to tax and IRMA surcharges. Third, let's talk about estate and beneficiary dynamics. Whether you pass away before your required beginning date or the date at which you have to start RMDs dictates the rules your heirs have to follow. And if we're pushing that RMD start age out to 75, this means more people are going to pass away before starting to have to take these RMDs. This may give heirs a little bit more flexibility, but on the flip side, these accounts are likely to be much larger by then. Under the 10-year inherited IRA rule, your kids or grandkids may be forced to drain a bigger balance over a shorter period, often during their peak earning years. And this timing really matters. According to the Federal Reserve, about 70% of inheritances are received after the age of 50, with the median age around 60. So in other words, most beneficiaries of an inheritance aren't young professionals working on building their wealth. Instead, they tend to be family members who are likely close to their own retirement, which makes managing this tax hit quite complicated because they might already be in their peak earning years and then being forced to take out these draws and layer it right on top of their ordinary income can push them into a very high tax bracket. Fourth, and this one often gets overlooked, many people treat RMDs as the spending rule. Remember, roughly 80% of people don't touch their accounts before RMD age, and once they hit it, about 84% only take out the minimum. So bumping the start age from 73 to 75 means more retirees are likely to not even touch their accounts until 75, and then by the time 75 hits, they will have larger withdrawals to take. And finally, there's the distributional critique. Who does this really help? Most of the benefit is going to higher net worth households who happen to have traditional accounts with larger balances. This gives them more time to let that compound. Less of the benefit goes to modest income households or modest saving households because it's not really going to move the needle that much. So while bumping the RMD age to 75 might sound like a gift, it could lead to bigger tax headaches, trickier estate planning, and ultimately policy that tilts towards wealthier households. So why did Congress do this? Well, on the surface, the policy framing is pretty darn simple. They said people are living longer and working longer, so the rules should modernize. Lawmakers simply said they wanted to give retirees more time before they were forced to touch these accounts. But underneath, there's also budgeting math. Pushing back the RMD age means the government is collecting less tax revenue in the short term, but to offset that, they paired it with a couple other changes. Revenue raisers like new Roth mandates where high earners must make their 401k catch-up contributions on a Roth basis, taxed up front. And I do have a full video on this that I will link above and down below if you're interested. In reality, this was part of a broader give and take package. This was a policy that's senior-friendly and honestly politically easier to sell when you say, hey, you don't have to touch your account balances for longer, but then they find sneakier ways to increase revenue elsewhere. And if we take a more critical view, the long-term fiscal reality is that this policy just may favor the government. These larger balances left untouched and required minimum distributions going to 75 means these accounts have more time to grow, and importantly, that heirs inherit larger accounts. Most heirs receive an inheritance in their 50s or their 60s, which happen to be their peak earning years. And this inherited money from a traditional account stacks right on top of ordinary income, pushing you into a higher and higher marginal tax bracket. And being that once an heir inherits a traditional account under ordinary rules, they must deplete this account fully within 10 years. So with a larger balance, these heirs might have very large withdrawals to make from these accounts, and that could increase tax revenue for the government. So while in the short term, it might look like a tax break for retirees, in the long run, the government very well may be getting larger tax revenue as these larger inherited balances are passed on to heirs who are then taxed at higher rates. In an ideal world, you would enter into retirement with multiple buckets to draw from. Maybe a tax-free bucket like a Roth IRA or tax-deferred accounts like a 401k or a traditional IRA, and even a regular taxable brokerage account. Having a mix gives you options. It means you not only control how much you're taking, but where you're taking money from, these different buckets. And that can give you the ultimate control over your taxes in your retirement, because that way you're spreading out your taxes not just over the course of a year, but over the course of a lifetime. To build that kind of flexibility, take advantage of Roth conversions in the years where your income is lower. Contribute to both traditional and Roth accounts during your working years if you're eligible. Remember, when it comes to employer-sponsored retirement plans, whether it's traditional, whether it's Roth, there are no income limits. So regardless of what your income is, you can contribute to the Roth or the traditional, whatever you choose. Keep in mind, the Roth 401k now has no RMDs during the account owner's lifetime, just like the Roth IRA. That makes these Roth dollars especially valuable as a flexible long-term planning tool. If you're charitably inclined, use Qualified Charitable Distributions, QCDs. You can start doing QCDs as soon as age 70 and a half, but they have to come from your IRA. It's not eligible to come from a 401k. So if you're charitably inclined, this can go a long way to supporting a cause you care about while also reducing future RMDs and your future tax bill. A couple other strategies worth considering. Think about tax diversification while you're still saving. Don't just pour everything into one type of account. Diversifying your contributions today will give you more options down the road. Use projection tools and run estimates on how large your tax-deferred accounts might grow to. If you're 20 or 30 years out from retirement, model what these accounts might grow to by the time you retire, and then using that data, you can plan how you want to continue your contributions. Of course, this isn't a plan that's going to be set in stone, adjusted as time goes on. If you're within 10 years of retirement, start mapping out how your RMDs will actually impact your plan. Look at how they're going to interact with your Social Security, your Medicare premiums, and your taxable income as a whole. Look at the entire picture. And most importantly, take the long view. Retirement income planning isn't just about planning next year's expenses. It's about trying to smooth out your taxes over the course of several decades. It's about giving yourself flexibility and peace of mind. On the surface, bumping out the RMD age 2 years might look like a simple change, but this change will have ripple effects across all areas of retirement planning, whether that's taxes, Medicare, the percentage of Social Security that ends up being taxed, estate planning, and even charitable giving. If you're within 5, 10, or 15 years of retirement, now is the time to start mapping out how this will fit into your plan, because for most people, RMDs set the rhythm of retirement. And understanding this shift could be the difference between you staying in control of your taxes and the IRS making those decisions for you. So what are your thoughts on this shift? Leave them in a comment down below. I post new videos every single week. If you got anything at all out of this, please give it a like. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Or if you know of someone who might get something out of this type of content, please consider sharing. I'll see you soon. Bye. Big changes. My battery just died. Not ideal. Oh, I think my camera's on the brink of death. I just wish I had an audio-visual person because I don't. This is not my space. We're held together by Band-Aids over here, essentially. And it's dying and I don't know how to fix it. I need an I can't talk. I need an audio-visual person. If somebody knows how to do that, what camera should I buy? What microphone should I buy? And make it easy for me to upload my footage to my computer. Drop everything down below that I need because this thing's dying, like dead.